Alright, that was a really good David concert. Wouldn't you say so, David? But I can finally relax, grab some food, and I'm ready to binge the Knuckles series. Because, I am definitely going to watch it via very legal methods because I want to give Paramount my money to use their subscription service for one show for one day. That is what I'm going to do very legally. 2 episodes later. That first bit wasn't a lie. I did just come back from the David concert. That was awesome. But as for the Knuckles show, it wasn't really a priority of mine to watch per se. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I love the movie universe. I love the first 2 movies, excited for movie 3, and whenever they decide to reveal that trailer that they revealed for random Hollywood no do-gooders. But for the Knuckles show itself, it was something that I was definitely going to watch, just like whenever I felt like it. Not exactly the day that it was going to come out, but as of recording this, it is the day that it came out, and I did watch it, and more so because I saw people talking about it on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, fine, you've piqued me. What are you guys talking about? Is it really that bad? Which I'm about to get into, but like, I formulated all my thoughts on like a Twitter thread that like no one's gonna look at, and then I was thinking maybe I'll formulate it into like a YouTube short or TikTok, and then realized I had way too many more things to say than I needed to, so here we are, and a full-blown video. I don't really usually do this for like the Sonic shows, but I thought I should be a voice of reason to talk about it coming from both sides, because yeah, sure, I guess let's just jump straight into it. I binged all 6 episodes earlier today, and yikes. Okay, well, when I say yikes, I'm not trying to be like, oh my god, it sucks. Like, hold on, let me speak on behalf of like my personal opinion and not trying to please the entire world, because obviously, from what I've seen, the majority of people don't like it. And before I continue, that's fair. Like, I'm gonna straight up, like, agree. I agree with what majority of people have pointed out and criticized about, and honestly, yeah, those criticisms are very accurate. For me personally, I'll keep it real. I thought that the show was okay, but I'm not exactly sure if me personally being okay with the show makes it okay. I don't know if that made any sense. Well, for starters, the target audience for this show really, like, depends. Like, obviously, it may not be for you. It may be for one person here or there. Like, I don't know what audience they were catering towards, but at the core of it, it's definitely for fans of the movie universe, such as myself, and, hopefully it was for Sonic fans alike. Because, well, you know how the team behind the movies have been doing things for the past 2 Sonic movies in terms of their humor and the types of scenes that they do, and I'll get more into that in just a second, but I feel like even us fans of the movies are hurt from this show. Oh no. But I will say that there are good and bad aspects of the show. It's not completely, from the start to finish, complete dog shit, like 100%. Like, I've seen people saying that, and you've probably seen it too. And I am of the belief that it's not all bad, but of course it's not all good, which I'm sure you've also seen people say. Personally, I'm able to see it from both sides, and I guess I'm touching tips now. Okay, hold on, wait. Let me backtrack. I guess I'm able to see both sides of the argument, which I guess that's what I'm always able to do. In case you're new or have forgotten, again, I am a Sonic fan who is, for the most part, always positive and always likes speaking positively. If I ever speak in terms of criticism, I'm always respectful of other people's opinions, which I feel like that's a pretty good trait to have in this community. Thumbs up for that. I'm a Sonic fan who likes almost every single piece of Sonic content, like, from the recent stuff to the stuff that I've grown up with. And even if I dislike things, again, it's totally cool if you like it. So, like, hey, if you liked the Knuckles show, then I'm not gonna hate on you for that. Again, I liked some pieces of it here and there, but I would be remiss if I were to say, oh my god, it was a train wreck from start to finish. Like, it wasn't all bad. There was just a lot of things for me personally that as I was watching it, I felt like things could have been done differently, or like, oh, I felt something should have happened here, or like this was a missed opportunity or something like that. And listen, I get it. I get that my expectations of the show was never really of some sort of high standing to begin with, and when I saw people talking about it on Twitter in the morning, my expectations got even lower. So when I did watch it, my expectations were of like the perfect caliber, I guess to say. I don't know. Let me pull up my Twitter posts I made. Actually, I'm gonna use those as references. Of course, the first post on my feed is Games Cage's thing. What? Hello? I love you. Call me when you're on your way back. You say nah? Why don't you like me? What do you mean Sonic's a deal breaker for you? That was a great cameo. I was just trying to say, of course, Fidel's post about the show is that the first thing that showed up on my feed. That's all I wanted to say. But I will say, most of the hate that I've seen towards the show, I don't want to assume is like, oh my god, you guys are blowing it out of proportion. It's like such a Sonic fan overreaction of hate. But like, that's not what I'm trying to say. That's not what I'm trying to displace onto other Sonic fans, because, you know, I love you guys. While the show isn't as good as it could have been, it was, for me personally, it was alright. It was not, I don't know if I would say it was solid. It's probably the most mid show or average show we could have gotten. So I guess it could have been worse, but it could have been better. And I did see a post from Sam talk about like, oh, how we shouldn't settle for something to be mid or mediocre. And I've seen people take that post of his a little out of context, because like, I do think the hate towards Sam on that post is a little out of context, not because like, yeah, if you enjoyed, it's an opinion. At the end of the day, opinions are opinions. If we come together, cool. If we don't, respect it. But yeah, I'm personally indifferent with the show. For the most part, was cool watching it through. I don't know if I'll ever watch it through again. Maybe only some highlight clips here and there, because the joke that people were making that, oh, Knuckles is barely in his own show, that joke immediately gone, squashed. I'm so sorry. He is in his own show for the majority of it. Unfortunately, the human characters they get more screen. From watching it, I think the human characters do get more screen time compared to Knuckles, or at least matched. Like, they get equal amount of screen time as Knuckles. But I don't know how to feel about it, because for the most part, I genuinely don't mind the human characters in the first movie and the second movie. Because of course, you know, Eggman's a human, the gun agents are humans, the subordinates of Eggman are humans. For the most part, every human character in the movies plays a role in the plot, and that does apply here, just more so. The human characters have like loads and loads and loads and loads of screen time, and it is all for the plot, but it's not necessarily for a plot that we want, or like not necessarily relate to, but like a plot that we put too much care for, since we care about the character that the show has the name is based on. I don't know what to say about it. But ultimately, I do understand where most of the complaints and criticisms, oh my god, I can't speak. I do understand where most of the criticisms come from, because at the end of the day, I would have liked to see more Knuckles in a show named Knuckles. And generally, most of the human characters I didn't mind. In fact, I definitely 100% liked the villains. I liked the buyer, I liked the gun agents, and that's probably the two best things that the show did, and I wish did more of, was the show definitely got Knuckles right to a T. They got down Knuckles' character right to a T, and I just wish that he had more screen time for growth, because of course Wade got most of the screen time for growth. But and then number 2 is that, wait, did I say A for the first, and then number 2? I'm smart. But the other thing is that, yeah, I kind of wish that the gun agents had a little bit more screen time as well. They do have a decent amount of screen time, and then of course they ultimately are gone. Oh, and Knuckles kills the buyer. Like, he's just straight up dead. Like, you can't survive that. But you know, Gun was fleshed out a little bit in one of the episodes, and I was kind of hoping for a little bit more of that, because that's what a little bit of the synopsis was when I think an interview came out the other day, and they were like, oh yeah, you know how in Sonic 1 San Francisco was destroyed and that's why Gun was built, and like, and now in Sonic 2 Sonic and Knuckles have a global fight and they're dropping rings and quills all over the place, so Gun has been picking it up and using it for their own equipment. Like, that's awesome. I love that continuity, and I wish we got just a little bit more of that. Like, I don't think that's too much to ask for. Sonic and Knuckles actions have consequences that don't go unnoticed. In fact, they build off of it, and how these events in a prior movie, in a prior show, how do these events carry over into the next installment, and what do people do about it? And that's something that we literally saw in the very first episode of the show, because like Knuckles is like secretly attacking the carpenters. Is that what they are? Or like just like people repairing the house, and then Sonic and Tails are like, I guess that hole in the wall is never getting fixed, huh? Like, that's the hole in the wall that Knuckles made when he punched Sonic through the house in movie 2. And then Knuckles did it again in this show, and he just ruined the Wade family house. Like, see, I'm enjoying talking about those scenes, but they're just like a little too far and too few between. Like, I really wish we got more of those. And for me personally, that is like my only really big, I hit you again, I'm sorry. That is my really only big gripe, my biggest, oh, this was the biggest missed opportunity. Like, in my opinion, that was like the one thing that stuck out to me. Like, I kind of wish we got a couple more scenes like that. And I did talk about this in my thread, but I do wish that there was just a little bit more backstory on both sides. I wish there was a bit more Knuckles backstory, and I wish that there was a little bit more Gun backstory. And all of the backstory and character growth and overall journey was for Wade and Wade's family. And listen, I do like Wade's character. Okay, I never really gave too much thought on Wade as a character in movie 1 or movie 2, but here he was pretty good. Of course, he is a comic relief character, and that's why he's like, oh, everyone just thinks I'm a joke. And but like, he did have a, I was about to say he had a good amount of time to shine, but I think he had more than enough time to shine. But no, and truly be told, I did like Wade in the show. It's just that I personally couldn't care more about his family members and like anything else about his personal journey, because like, again, I'm here for Knuckles, like. But if I were to talk about the good things that the Knuckles show did, because for me personally, it really nailed Knuckles' character down to a T, and especially the animation for Knuckles. Like, the fighting moves that Knuckles does is 100% on point. Like, multiple times Knuckles does his little drill attack, and every time he does that, I light up. I love that drill attack so much. And in the first episode, he burrows into the ground to like spy on the guys fixing the house. And of course, Knuckles does his glide. Knuckles has super strong punches as always, and all the fighting scenes were really good. Honestly, those were some highlights for me, the fighting scenes, and when Wade went to go save Knuckles, including when Wade was visualizing how to save Knuckles. Like, I do like the comedy in this, and if I'm being honest, since this was a show, that's what we should have gone in expecting. We shouldn't have gone in, well, I don't know what people's expectations were, but it definitely shouldn't have been expectations of like the movie level, because like, it's not a movie, it's a show. Of course, it's going to be a little bit more lighthearted, and of course, there's going to be more jokey aspects. Maybe it's going to, you know, be like a tonal shift in a way, and that definitely happened. I definitely saw it. And for the most part, a lot of the jokes actually landed for me personally. I love Knuckles eating his grapes, and then he constantly asks for grapes. He's like, "Oh, where's the grapes? Where's the grapes in this dinner?" I liked when Kid Cudi did like the Knuckles punch. Is like, "Do I look like I need your power?" And he's just like copying Knuckles's line from movie 2. And like, of course I need his power. Like, I'm trying to say a cool line, dude. And I appreciate that. Kid Cudi actually did a pretty good job. I really liked both gun agents. Like, they're like little rebel gun agents, and it gave a little bit, a smidge bit more of an insight into the gun agency as a whole, which I really liked, especially since the buyer was also formerly, or in a way, formerly a gun agent. And ultimately, as much as I say, like, oh, the human characters have been taking up too much screen time, like, ultimately, Knuckles is in his show in every episode for a good majority of it. The only time he takes a backseat, I think, is episode 4 for like Wade's specific, you know, hero moment. But I think ultimately that is the biggest, either best or worst part about the show is the balancing between our main character Knuckles, what the show is named after, and the human characters. Okay, well, now I'm gonna sound like a contradict because I just said that yes, Knuckles is in his show, like how people have been joking, like, oh my god, Knuckles is barely in his show. Like, no, Knuckles is in his show, like, in every episode. Because, of course, he has to be in every episode. But, unfortunately, the human characters are in it for more, somehow. And there's just if there was ever so slightly a bit more balance between Knuckles screen time and human character screen time, I would have appreciated that. Because I can tell you for sure, most people dipped after episode 2, right? Like, I think I'm allowed to say or assume that, like, most people maybe probably fell asleep during episode 2, or like after episode 2, clocked out, or like, you know what, this isn't for me, I'm not watching the rest, or like, they just like skipped through it. Because I can't lie, I kind of skipped through a little bit of the last episode because I was so done. I was so done with Wade's subplot, or like, I guess Wade is the plot, but I was so done with it that I'm like, okay, I'm skipping the bowling match. I was like skipping through the bowling match, and I'm like, oh, I guess he won. Who would have thought? And like, if I end up skipping through what is supposed to be like the win of his whole journey, I shouldn't need to be doing that in order to stay engaged, right? Again, I'm not hating on the human characters. I really do like a good amount of the human characters and know their relevance and importance to the movie universe. And that's not to say that I don't want more Sonic characters. Of course, everyone wants more Sonic characters in the Sonic media. Like, whatever Sonic media that might be, we would of course want more Sonic characters in the movie universe, but I knew from the beginning that they weren't going to add more to the show, and it's a little unrealistic to be like, oh my god, they're probably going to add Rouge to the show, they're probably going to add the Chaotix to the show, and I get it, I truly get it, but the rate that they are currently adding Sonic characters to the movie universe is a fine rate. The pace that they're doing it is fine because they need time to flesh out each character, and they're not gonna do it in a spin-off sub-series that is mostly to not be taken so seriously, which I think that is the point. It shouldn't be taken so seriously, now I'm thinking about it. But while the human characters did take up a little too much time for my personal liking, I would say aside from that, my biggest problem is some missed opportunities here and there. Like, I really do feel like they could have delved into Knuckles' backstory a bit more backstory for Gun, and I feel like if there was a really good balance between the three, like Knuckles backstory, Gun backstory, Wade backstory, like all of these things colliding at once, which ultimately was what happened, but I feel like if it was handled just a little bit better, it would have been like taking the show up another notch, because Wade goes through his little training arc in episode 4, or like his hallucination, and he's like running through Angel Island, running through the special stage, and it's all in like some sort of like a dreamscape. But if that maybe confirms Angel Island, then I would have loved to have seen at some point a specific Knuckles backstory episode of like what was things like for the Echidnas. Were they really on Angel Island in Sonic's world? And like I don't know. I feel like there could have been a little bit more backstory on all three parts of the triangle. Like, oh, like how did Gun actually form after the Sonic and Eggman's battle in San Francisco? Like, how did Gun actually form from that? Again, I know it's very unrealistic. It's a show that if you miss out on it, then it's not a big deal. And I feel like ultimately that's the point. If you miss out on the show, it's not a big deal. It doesn't hold much bearing for Sonic Movie 3. You'll be fine. I feel like that's the point. There's not supposed to be a huge lore gap that you could miss if you don't watch it. But if you do watch it, it connects some little things here and there, and it's just overall a nice, it's supposed to be a fun sideshow. And I get that. Which again is personally why I don't have too many bad things to say about it. I'm just bouncing off of what the majority of people say, like, because yeah, I do agree that it was hard for me to stay focused a bit on the human plots when I want to see the character that the show is based on. But overall, I did like a fair amount of the show. The only things I really didn't like was like the majority of episode 3, episode 4, and like half of episode 5, episode 6. So, okay. I'm basically saying I don't like the show, but I really do like a good amount of the show. And it shows that the first episode is the best because that's the only one Jeff Fowler directed. That was the only one Jeff Fowler directed, and the rest of the episodes after episode 1 and 2 took a dive. Episode 3 and episode 4 are far and away probably the worst. Episode 4 really does obviously solo in on Wade and his like little journey because, you know, that's when he found like his courage. But which I can understand. I can understand that was the episode that was specifically what it was for. Again, still would have liked to see more Knuckles, but episode 3 specifically was the worst episode, and I think many people can agree about that. And if not many, then everybody agrees that Wanda, Wade's sister, is the worst character in Sonic history. or at least the movie continuity, at least. She sucked. And I get it. I get that characters are written to be likable, to be unlikable. Oh, this character was specifically written and acted so that you're not supposed to like them. Oh, this character, you're supposed to hate them. That's how the character is written. But it really didn't do any favors. Like, even if you know that you're not supposed to like that character, she was still far beyond being unlikable. She was unalivable. Dude, why did she stuck a metal detector or like a weapon detector up Knuckles' crotch? Why would you do that to him? Oh my god, my boy got violated. I did think that part was pretty funny though. Maybe because I'm a degenerate, but I really think that it speaks volume that if I had to hold back the urge to skip through scenes with the human characters in episodes 5 and 6, and then I caved in episode 6 and did end up skipping the bowling scene, I feel like that alone speaks a lot of numbers because I shouldn't have to do that. Like, I liked the show when Knuckles was in it. Like, I don't, and again, that's not to say that I didn't like the human characters, because I liked Wade and I liked the dynamic between Knuckles and Wade, but there was just a little bit too much of an imbalance between Knuckles, Gun, Wade family. And in a way, the Knuckles show is very similar to Sonic Movie 1. Like, the dynamic between Sonic and Tom going on their journey is very similar to to Knuckles and Wade going on their journey, except it felt way too prolonged, or extended for no good reason. I know it sounds like I'm talking a lot of bad stuff about the show right now, and I'm like flopping between talking about the good, talking about the bad, but truly, there is a lot of good to it and a lot of not so good to it. Again, that's why it's the most mid-average piece of Sonic content out there. And it's definitely not the worst piece of Sonic content out there. I don't know where people have construed the idea that this is the worst Sonic-related thing to ever happen to the franchise. Like, and they're like, oh, it's gonna make me die. Like, no, I don't know how you could have possibly gotten that. Now, unaliving myself does sound pretty good. No, I'm kidding. I understand if it maybe showed off one more new Sonic character, but besides Pac-Man, but besides him, maybe if it also brought Tikal, who knows. But in the grand scheme of things, no matter how much distaste I could have for some of the scenes or some of the episodes in the show, it was ultimately fine. I ultimately had more enjoyment than bad, or equal enjoyment and equal bad, and just kind of collided to like, it was okay, it was whatever. And ultimately, it's not made to be taken seriously in the grand scheme of the movie universe. It's a side spin-off that is just meant to be a fun, enjoyable experience that is lighthearted and not meant to be taken seriously. And with that understanding, then yes, I ultimately did like it to a good degree. I guess that's what I've been trying to say. If you know that it's just a silly little show, not meant to be taken seriously, just meant to be fun, then yeah, that would explain why you may like the show. Don't take it too seriously, please. And my opinion shouldn't affect yours. Opinion is opinion. And I never know how to end off these types of videos. Oh, wait, one last thing. Don't worry, there's no spoiler, or like there's no post-credits spoiler that leads into Sonic Movie 3. Like, oh my god, people were posting that, oh my god, the post-credits scene for Knuckles show, what happened with Gun 50 years ago? No, the post-credits is another riding motorbike scene. I can see why many people don't like it, actually.